Hello, welcome back to the Outcasts Creative channel with me, your host Lance Nielsen. Still haven't quite got the lighting right in here, and I'll be investing in some decent lighting soon so that I don't look like, a zombie. But enough about that. We're going to be talking about two great films tonight. I've got a co-host. I'm not sure if they're ready yet. I think they're ready, but they may want to readjust their camera slightly. But yeah, we're going to be getting into two of my favourite films. One of them is definitely one of my favourite films of all time, and the other one I have a big soft spot for various personal reasons. So, and we'll get into what those are. One of them also features in my new book, which I am going to shamelessly plug as it's just come out. But without any further ado, let me bring in my mysterious co-host, the Inside Man. Are you there?
Boo. Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm here.
I like the way
Present and correct.
there's like a hint of light at the bottom of your screen. It makes you very ethereal. Yeah, fantastic. We haven't got our usual Tuesday night person with us as well, Matthew Holmes, tonight, because he is currently flying to England, and he will be with me. He'll be with me on next Tuesday's stream. We'll be talking about The Shadow, The Phantom, and a big favourite of mine, The Rocketeer.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think you're going to be on that one as well, aren't you?
I think I may well be, actually.
If you can, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Our in the house, Positive Fandom. Our was on my channel yesterday when I did an impromptu review of a new American movie called The Sound of Freedom. It seems to be called
yeah.
Well, I happened to visit a friend and they had it on. They'd literally just started it. So I was like, do you mind if we watch this from the beginning? Because I think I need to review this. And so I got to watch it. There's another Lance in the house, Lance Chaffin.
Hello, Lance.
Possibly named after the bird. I don't know. Thank you. Yana Catania also here. Congrats on the new Bambino once again. I know you're feeding it at regular intervals.
Oh, congratulations.
And is that you, Retro Nerd Girl? Well, if it is, he's got a very deep voice
Yes.
for Retro Nerd. We've got Dave Macy here as well. Man, I'm getting a hardcore of regulars when we stream. When the channel goes big, you guys will not be forgotten. There'll be, things, some special freebies for people that have been supporting me from day one. Yeah, anyway, I haven't thought of what they are yet, but I'm sure you've got all kinds of props, that you can give me and things. A free cinema ticket from 1987. It's already had one use and one owner. So great.
Yeah,
well,
pre-owned.
Great to see some people in the chat. Now, I've got to get I don't have a vinyl soundtrack for Midnight Run. And it's funny, actually, because Midnight Run doesn't have a sort of traditional blustery soundtrack. And we'll talk about the soundtracks of these respective films in a minute. But Midnight Run does have an absolutely awesome soundtrack. Probably not the sort of soundtrack you want to listen to at home, but I would say the perfect one for the film itself.
Yeah, I actually listened to it today, funny enough.
Well, I've just watched the movies back to back. I didn't get to the end of Midnight Run because I watched Running Scared first, because the last time I watched Running Scared was probably about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
I've still got my unopened Blu-ray of Midnight Run, and I was going to watch this version of it, but I still had some work to do, so I had to have it on the desktop.
Yeah.
And rather than set up the TV with the Blu-ray over there and all that kind of thing. So I got as far as the bit where he goes home to visit his daughter, but we'll come back to that in a minute. We've now got 12 people.
Wow.
So, well, people, thank you so much for tuning in to like, share, and subscribe. Do a little post about the stream if you think your friends will be interested.
That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing.
It? We've got
it's a good number.
Jim D's in the house. Good to see Jim D. Thank you very much for coming in. Nice little greeting. We keep it all very friendly in here, so don't all stop having a pop at each other. Otherwise, I'll have to get my moderators in with their big hammers. Keith, just listening. Keith, I hope you're going to contribute as well. You may not have seen the film, but I'm sure you can. So I have the Running Scared soundtrack, which I bought as soon as the movie came out. Now,
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
I don't normally buy soundtracks. Well, when I was buying soundtracks when I was younger, if you look at my soundtrack collection, 70% of them are soundtracks that are predominantly, the content is predominantly the composer. So if you look up top there, oh, hang on, let's move that. We've got 2 of the Indiana Jones, John Williams vinyls up the top there and to the right of Thunderbird 3. So obviously they don't have like 5 or 6 pop songs on them. But Running Scared has only got 1 instrumental soundtrack on it, but I still wanted it, and I'll get into why when we get into the film. Jim has never seen Running Scared. Vin loves Running Scared. Vin Weasel, of course, we know it's really Vin Diesel in disguise. Thank you for popping in, Vin. So yeah, we'll come back to that. Now, is it best to talk about the films in tandem or one after the other? I think they're quite different movies.
They are very, very different. I mean, kind of. I think tonally they're kind of there are some similarities, but they are very, very different. Very different beasts.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I put them side by side and when I wanted to talk about them together is that the one thing that they've got in common, in a sense, they're both buddy movies. They're not. They're not cop buddy movies, which is why I didn't want to pick Lethal Weapon. But the reason that for me that they've got a commonality is that the chemistry between the 2 leads is amazing for completely different reasons.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
So in our Running Scared, which for those people that haven't seen it, is a cop buddy film. You have Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines in the lead. First time that a black actor had played a lead in a cop buddy movie, by the way.
Yeah.
Not the first time that Gregory Hines had a lead. He'd already done White Nights a couple of years earlier, or at least a year earlier, which I also have the soundtrack for down here. And then you've got Charles Grodin and Robert De Niro in Midnight Run as a criminal, a white-collar criminal, we should add, and a bail bondsman.
Come bounty hunter.
Yeah. Who's that guy that had his own program? The guy with the big hair, and the documentary crew would follow him around. Was he called like Bad Dog or something?
Yes, that's it. That's it. Yeah.
Somebody will know in the chat about that guy who had his own show. I've never seen a whole episode of it, but until I saw this movie, I didn't know that bail bondsmen / bounty hunters legally existed, or that this world of you could go and get criminals that had skipped bail and you would get a share of the bail money, and that's what bail bondsmen did. I didn't know that this world existed. I didn't know that these characters were real, these roles.
It's kind of, don't you think it's quite kind of reminiscent of the Old West? There's kind of a little bit of an Old West quality to that sort of thing.
Well, you know what Walter Hill says, every film is a Western.
It's a Western, yeah.
And he's not that far wrong with these 2 in a way.
No, you're actually right.
So just some more comments. Jim D, Midnight Run, on the other hand, I've been watching on VHS, DVD and Blu-ray ever since it was released. I also used to own a big box VHS, one of the ones that got sold for rental, not the sell-through market.
Oh yeah, the big boxes.
Yeah, I also had I still have the DVD, and now I've got a Blu-ray of it. And same with Running Scared. I had all 3. I had a big box Running Scared as well. So lots of nice friendly chat going on. That's all very good.
Very, very good.
And here we go. Dog the Bounty Hunter, Lance Chaffin. Thank you. That's what I'm talking about. Robert De Niro's character, nothing like him. Just to clarify for people. So, difficult to know where to start with these 2. So, Maybe we'll talk about them because they've got some parallels. Maybe we'll talk about them side by side as we tackle each bit.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, should we do that rather than do one and then the other?
Yeah.
All right. So Running Scared was made first. So
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Let's get into that. That first. So it was directed by Peter Hyams.
Peter Hyams. Yeah.
People may know that he directed Capricorn 1, which is a film that I definitely want to do a stream on. I saw it.
Yeah, great movie. Great movie. Yeah, me too.
I didn't see it at the cinema on its release because I'm not as old as you, Inside Man. But I went to the Prince Charles to see it last year.
Yeah. Oh, right.
I had a one-off screening of it.
What was the print like?
It was good. It was good print. Yeah, I'm not sure if they showed if it was a print or if it was a Blu-ray. Actually, it may have been a Blu-ray, but it felt grainy to me. So I think maybe it was a print. But I took Sebastian Story, who's one of the young actors that did some Outcast classes and things.
Oh, right, nice.
And he had never seen or even heard of it. So I said, right, mate, you got to come and see this movie. And he loved it. And it's a very old school film, but we won't go down that rabbit hole. But Peter Hyams had directed that. That was his first big success. Let me just log out of Facebook. I'm getting bing bonged by everybody. And then what happened was this film. It started off that he basically wanted to do a comedy. That was not stupid, had some action in it, where the action wasn't too mean or graphic, so not a Walter Hill sort of action thing. And MGM came to him with a script about two elderly cops in New York who are about to retire, and he decided he wanted to make it about two young cops in Chicago who didn't retire. And Hyams, and I quote, thought this opened up a set of casting possibilities to me that were fresh and also gave me a chance visually to use a city that is not used much. So
I know Chicago were pretty they weren't overly keen on having the unit there because of John Landis and shooting Blues Brothers a few years prior.
Did that cause them lots of problems then?
Yes, it did. Yeah. There were lots of problems with local authorities.
Well, funnily enough, we definitely need to do a Blues Brothers stream. I was actually thinking that today. That I've got to Blues Brothers stream. Let me just put this light on, see if I can stop my face from bleaching out. It's really bright and horrible, but that's a little bit better, isn't it? Except sunlight. Can't really see anything. Right. Okay. So so it started off as one project, as a lot of films often do. Peter Hyams took it and kind of made it into something else. The writer was
Gary DeVore
and Jim Houston.
Yeah, and also, of course, there's I think maybe when we come to the end, we'll perhaps say something a little bit about Gary DeVore, the story of Gary DeVore, which is quite an intriguing one.
Oh yeah, because he's got that whole weird death story.
Yeah. So it's a bit odd.
Yeah, it is odd. He was also married to Claudia Christian at one point from Babylon 5.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. Yes, he was. Yeah,
he was married 4 times. So God, he went to town on the wives.
Yes, he did.
Darth Plato, good to see you. I heard you were trying to get hold of me earlier, so I know you've got a way of contacting me now. That's great. Cannoli Sasquatch, I was on a channel stream with these guys last night, digesting the last Mission Impossible film, not the latest. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Yeah, like going on their channel. I mean, they keep me up till like 3-4 in the morning, and I always have to drop out before the end. But it's fun. But I'm almost on an American time clock now. So yeah, Gary DeVore hasn't got a huge number of credits. I know Hyams did some uncredited rewrites, and I know that Billy Crystal also added a lot of dialogue of his own.
Yeah, fantastic improv, I think, on his behalf. I think it was one of those things where Peter Hyams had pretty much said, "Look, if you don't like it, just do what you do."
And that's another commonality that both films had.
Yeah,
because Martin Brest also encouraged Charles Grodin to do that. So basically, what we have is a soft action comedy buddy cop film that was set up as one thing, produced as something else. Music by Rod Temperton, but it's predominantly a pop soundtrack that we'll come back to in a bit.
yeah.
And it's a fairly straightforward plot about two cops. There's no exposition in the movie at all. We're just straight into their regular daily life. They're they're not really even on an official stakeout. They're just in a known neighborhood of criminality. They pick up on something going on, and that leads us into the story.
Yeah.
And we don't need any background about how they know each other or how long they've worked together. In fact, that's never even discussed because they're so natural that you just believe that they've been partners all their lives. That's what's really good about the two of them.
You know, you're absolutely right. I mean, what an amazing piece of casting this was.
Yeah.
And I know that I think it was MGM. I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's
I think
MGM movie.
yeah, I think I know they were. I know the studio were a little bit kind of. Are you seriously? Are you really going to go with Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines? I mean, it's
And Gregory Hines had to audition for the part several times, and he really wanted it. And Peter Hyams really wanted him because Peter Hyams had worked with him on an episode of Amazing Stories.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So Peter Hyams went to bat for him.
Yeah.
But the studio didn't want him. I think that it was a genius piece of casting. He wanted to cast two actors that you wouldn't put in cop roles.
Yeah.
And
it was originally Gene Hackman, written for Gene Hackman and Paul Newman, wasn't it?
That I didn't know. That would have been interesting. That would have been tonally a completely different film.
Tonally,
it wouldn't have been
different.
It wouldn't have been light, and it would have been more of a
more of a character study. I think
more of an American French connection, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And Hackman and Newman in two leads together. I don't think they ever did a movie together where they were playing the two leads.
No, I don't think they did.
Yeah,
they did. Yeah.
Well, won't happen now, sadly. But that would have been a film I would have liked to have seen. But I'm still glad that we got this one. But
yeah.
But let's so I mean, interestingly, the American poster, I've got a Running Scared poster. I've got a UK one, which is the same as the cover for the album that I've just shown people. We've got that's quite a small image, annoyingly, but that's because their car gets marked up as unmarked. And then this cover was the cover for the UK cinema quad. And for those American people watching, we don't have portrait posters in our cinemas. We have landscape posters. And if you want to see what I'm talking about, if I pan my camera up and just move it this way a little bit, tip it up a bit, and try not to tip my computer over, that is a UK cinema poster for They Live, John Carpenter's They Live. Shine Sweet Freedom, Michael McDonald, Lance Chaffin. We're gonna get onto the tunes, don't worry. So before we jump back onto Midnight Run, the other cast on Running Scared, I mean, it very much is Hines and Crystal's movie. But you do have Stephen Bauer in one of his first more significant roles after Scarface. I'm not sure what happened to him in terms of his career. It seemed like he was on a pretty big trajectory.
You're right. And
then kind of
tailed off.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I mean, did he upset somebody? Was he difficult to work with? And I don't want to assume that was the case. It may well not have been. May well that he had, family things and he had to take a break from the industry. But he didn't do as much as he should have done. I did notice that he started working again a lot later. So, I mean, you know, maybe he took time out to have kids, or which is, as we know from talking to David McGiffert, is a very important thing to do.
Yeah.
If you're a dad, you don't want to be on a set, do you? You want to spend time with your kids.
Which kind of ties into Charles Grodin, because he did exactly that. He actually did do exactly that. He took time out for in particular for his son.
Right. That's interesting. We'll come back to that.
Mm.
So sticking with the Running Scared
Running
cast
Scared.
first, and then we'll go back and discuss the origins of Midnight Run. So, I mean, do you know the connection with the cast between Running Scared and Midnight Run? Anyone in the chat? Anyone? Bueller? Anyone? There's one actor who appears in both movies. There may be more.
You've actually got me on that one.
It's Joe Pantoliano.
Oh,
so Joe Pantoliano plays Snake in.
Yeah, of course he does.
Running
Yeah,
Scared.
yeah.
And he also plays Jack's bail bondsman.
Yeah.
In Midnight Run.
Yeah.
So I bet they had a whale of a time doing this shoot in Key West.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll come back to that, but it's, you know, a part of that shoot involved basically lots of shots with lots of different pretty girls. Must have been terrible for them.
Oh, tough job.
Yeah. So Darlene Flugel's someone I wanted to talk about. So I had a bit of a crush on her.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you not? And she was also Tom Hanks's girlfriend in a film he did with Jackie Gleason, Jackie Gleason's last film called Nothing in Common, which is a film that a lot of people have not seen of Tom Hanks's. It's a sort of soft romantic comedy, bit of drama. It's a really good movie and very underrated. And she's Hanks's love interest in that. She plays a very
well,
I'm going to do a stream about that. Actually, I might do a watch party of Nothing in Common. I do have the DVD, and I've got the soundtrack on vinyl, of course.
What haven't you got on vinyl?
Well, this era, I've got lots of stuff. But if we get into the 90s, when things started going to CD, then I've got a lot of CDs, and then I've got nothing. So what's really sad about Darlene Flugel, who I first saw in Battle Beyond the Stars as Richard Thomas's love interest, which I did a watch party about the other day, is that she got Alzheimer's at 56. So very, very young. She got Alzheimer's, and she died at 64 in 2017.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, and I remember actually several times, you know, whenever I'd watch an old film with her in, I would always do a check on IMDb. What's she been doing? What's she up to?
Yeah.
Melvin's also pointed out she was in Tough Guys with Lancaster, but
Of
Lancaster,
course, yeah, I remember that.
I didn't like that film at the time, but I feel if I watch it now, I probably would appreciate it more. I think it suffered from going up against other movies that were better around that time.
Yeah, you're probably right there.
She's a really good actress. She in an interview she said she realized that she was a washed up model at 25 and she'd better get some acting lessons, and she did, and everybody wanted her to change her name, and she refused because she wanted her family to be proud of her, and she had a pretty decent career. I love that gun that's all taped up with gaffer tape. Remember that scene?
Yeah.
Like a really dodgy BB gun.
Yeah.
And of course, that's that's the scene that proves that everybody in Chicago wears long johns. Other cast, you've got Dan Hayder, who I think also was in Commando as one of the baddies, playing the police captain.
Oh, right.
This guy wasn't he?
Yeah.
Wasn't he the bad guy? One of the bad sort of guys, the one that employed the psycho bad guy. He was like the Banana Republic general. What's his name? I think he was in Commando. I'm pretty sure.
You probably got more of a recollection of that than me. It wasn't a movie that I really, really.
Don't say that in here, Inside Man. People may track you down. Commando. There you go. I was right. So he's an actor I like. He's still around. It'd be great if I could get him on the channel, actually. And of course, he was in Alien Resurrection, in charge of the space station.
Yes.
Pretty sure his character dies. We just need to put an ad blocker on here. What's going on? Then we also have, so like I said, we got Stephen Bauer, who was in he was in Scarface. Joe Pantoliano, who we've mentioned already. John Grease was one of the regulars in the original Miami Vice television series. And then he was also the only actor who is in both. He's a good actor. He's great in White Lotus as a bit of a con merchant who goes after one of the rich ladies. But fun fact for people, he's the only actor who is in both Heat and LA Takedown, the original version of Heat that Michael Mann made that went straight to video.
Right.
And he's in both. He plays the person who's having an affair with Al Pacino's wife in Heat when Al Pacino says, "You can't watch my fucking television." Remember that?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And
yeah.
he kicks the TV out the car a bit later. Now, Jimmy Smits, who went on to do LA Law, and by the way, I think he's a fantastic actor. His best work is in NYPD Blue. He was not so well known at this stage in his career. And, you know, it's great to see him. It plays a sort of evil bad guy, drug smuggler in the movie. Spends a lot of it running around in his thong. But yeah, he's good in the film. He makes a good villain. I don't think there's anyone else. Tracy Reed, I'm not sure if I'm familiar with her. Let's have a quick look. No, I don't think so. Actress, not someone I recognise. Oh, she's the love interest of Gregory Hines.
Oh, of course, yeah.
She's good. It's a nothing role, but she makes herself stand out. But it's a nothing part, sadly. I mean, if I've got a criticism of, I mean, these are both very masculine movies. It's male leads, male buddies. But I think that the female parts, there's not many of them in Midnight Run. But when they're on screen, you feel their presence. But in this, I feel in Running Scared, the women are very underwritten.
Yeah, I think. I mean, for me, I think there wasn't really that much of a necessity. I think there were kind of very incidental, in order for a little bit of, showing that they're, that they are not just cops, but they have relationships. They are capable of relationships.
Yeah.
It was just that kind of. But of course, and then there's, I don't really want to give too much away, but then there's the kind of key moment with Billy Crystal's other half.
Yeah. People checking out the prices. This is interesting. Running Scared on Amazon, 21 quid for the DVD. They don't want us buying physical media. Just their political. Yeah, by the way, I watched Heat the other day on Netflix. I meant to mention this on our last stream. It was cut.
Yeah.
They cut the shot of Waingro getting the bullet to the head. And they cut the shot of you seeing the girl with the arm slashed in the bath.
Yeah. And this is what they're doing on all the streaming services with these kind of
movies. I was really pissed off because I'm like, I've invested my time watching this movie and I want to see the original cut. And I was thinking, well, what do I do now? Go and get out my Blu-ray, put it on, and find the right spot. Just because I just happened to, put it on because I just was drifting off to sleep. And Heat's not a good film to do that to. You end up staying awake because you want to see the gunfight.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, this is the beauty of physical media, where it's there. It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Whereas you go into any streaming service that happens to have that in their catalog, you will find things missing. If you really know that movie, you will find an awful lot missing, and it's they arbitrarily take bits and pieces out because they can. Because there's all these kind of trigger warnings. It absolutely drives me insane.
Everything in life is a trigger warning now, man. And
it's
like, well, your trigger warnings are triggering me.
Yeah,
I mean, really,
I don't think they seem to realise that we did actually get by in life,
without trigger
yeah,
warnings one
without trigger
time.
warnings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
think
know,
you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to legally protect themselves now because of the mass shootings in America.
yeah,
Someone's going to say, "Oh well, I went and watched that film and it triggered me,"
mhm,
and because there was no trigger warning,
yeah,
and court case ensues.
yeah.
I don't know. It's
This
all
all
that.
comes down to. Do you know what I think would be a really interesting discussion topic, if anybody would be interested, would be about the influence of or the violence in movies and violence on TV.
Right.
And I think as a participatory discussion, I mean, I have my views, you have your views, and I'm sure many other people have their views. Just kind of putting it out there, if it's for a future topic,
Yeah.
I think it's
Um,
it's a worthy discussion.
Jim, mate, you should know by now, having been around when Lethal Weapon was released on ITV, you don't watch action films on ITV, mate.
Ever,
The scenes would be
ever,
so heavily cut that sometimes
yeah,
they won't even make sense.
yeah,
Um, so let's okay. So we talked about how Running Scared came about and how it
yeah.
started. So we're going to jump onto Midnight Run
We don't run.
for a second. I'm just going to pull that down here. Oh, what's going on? There we go. So, yeah, I'm happy. By the way, now that I've hit my 2,000 subscribers, I'm going back and doing loads of editing and tidying up work on all my other videos and sort of
Oh, there's a lot of work there.
just doing things like making all the titles match and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So I was actually knee deep in that, and I suddenly realised, oh my god, we're on in 3 minutes. So that's why I was arrived a bit late. Physical media is the way to go. Yeah, I think
Yes, it is.
basically, if it's an all-time favorite film of yours, you want to have it. I've stopped buying every film I love now because I'm sort of I don't have to have a Blu-ray of every DVD I've got. But I'm also not getting rid of my DVDs, so I'm keeping both of them.
Yeah.
So this Midnight Run had a bit more of a troubled production. It went through a bit of a difficult journey to get made.
Yes,
Um,
it did. Yeah.
De Niro was very much behind its creation.
Mm,
Funnily enough, he pursued the lead role in a film that came out almost in the same week as
mm.
Midnight Run. And again, they both feature in my book, 1988, because they both came out that year. He
Yeah.
went after Tom Hanks's role in Big.
In Big, yes, he did.
I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
not know that. Yeah.
Now,
So,
there's another movie that would have been completely different.
I mean, it would have been more like Awakenings
Yeah,
if De Niro had played that role, and it would have been it would have been good, but it would have
yeah,
been it wouldn't have had the playfulness, I don't think. I think he would have nailed the child, but I don't think he would have nailed the child within the child.
yeah,
And I could have been wrong. I mean, again, two versions of, but so he was um very he didn't get that role because they went with Tom Hanks. Martin Brest, meanwhile, who directed Beverly Hills Cop, developed the script with a guy called George Gallo, which blended sort of action and comedy and so on.
mm,
Now, Gallo's done a lot of scripts. Before Midnight Run, he'd done Wise Guys, which I think is the one we talked about briefly earlier with Burt Lancaster. And is that the one? Oh,
um,
no.
no, no,
Wise
no.
Guys is with Danny DeVito and Joe Pizzico. Sorry, yeah, I wasn't massively sold on that film. I've got to be honest. But he, George Gallo's gone on to have a relatively
Mm,
decent career. He's done 10 or 15 features. He's directed a film called Middlemen with Luke Wilson. Yeah, so him and Martin Brest co-wrote it together essentially. But one of the things that's interesting that I learned when researching for tonight was Gallo says he based the relationship between Jack and the Duke, which is Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin's character, and we'll get into the story in a little bit, on his parents, on his own parents. He said watching them, they were so funny when they were arguing. So you know, that's quite funny. Yeah,
That's very good, actually.
yeah,
I like
David, we
that.
mentioned that earlier. I don't know if that's you echoing what we said, but yeah, we mentioned that earlier that they were both. Oh, Jim, thank you very much, mate. I think I'm on 2002 now, but spread the word, guys. I'm going to try and get to 3
Yeah.
fast as I can.
Spread it as far and wide as you possibly can, and let's just get more coming in.
Yeah, so fantastic. Yeah. Oh, Copacabania's here, the man who employed me to cause some ruffles on a stream last night, and
Hi,
implored me to
Copa.
take the piss out of Henry Cavill as often as I could. Your wish was my command, sir. Good guy, good guy. So
Yeah, hope you will, Copa.
so it's interesting because the script was they wanted a big name opposite De Niro in
Yeah.
order to attract box office, and Paramount pushed really heavily for the character to be changed into a woman, and for Cher to be cast in Charles Grodin's part. That would have been awful. That would have been a very mediocre film that just
Yeah.
would not have worked in the
And
same way.
I think you could kind of get the impression that it really would have been just her movie.
Yeah. Now they also suggested De Niro with Robin Williams, who was eager for the role and did actually come in and audition. And Bruce Willis was
That's
also
interesting.
someone who was looking at it. It could have worked with Robin Williams if Robin Williams could have reined it in a bit, but I don't think he was there on the reining in stage at this point in his career.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
But how Grodin got the part was that he auditioned with De Niro and they had instant chemistry. And you only need to watch one scene with them to see that. And their chemistry is amazing. So for people that haven't seen, anyway, what happened was they didn't, the studio, Paramount, didn't want to make the film with Charles Grodin. Martin Brest held out against them. Now that's a director that's got some balls, full credit to him. So they dumped the project. So they had to shop it around, and they got the financing for the film from United International Pictures, who picked up the tab. And I mean, look, that was the wise decision, because not only did this effectively launch Charles Grodin into the big leagues, but it's probably one of the best and most natural pairings. You'd never put these actors together normally, but it's one of the best pairings I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And the two of them, now you can see on IMDb, I've given this film 10 out of 10. Because for me, it's a perfect movie. I can't fault anything.
No.
Right. So the story basically is, for those people who don't know, Robert De Niro's character used to be a cop in Chicago, but he quit. You don't know that at the beginning. You find that out later. He's now a bail bondsman / bounty hunter, and he works for Joe Pantoliano's character, who's a bit of a sleazy bail bondsman who's always trying to underpay him. But he tells him, look, I've got a big job for you. And this big job, De Niro holds out for £100,000 paycheck. So De Niro plays Jack, and the job is to go and get Jonathan Mardukas, also known as the Duke. And the Duke is someone who embezzled a load of money from the mob. He was their accountant, and he reallocated those funds and gave them away to charity, and then he disappeared. So not only is he wanted on bail by bail bondsmen, he's also wanted by the mob. He's also wanted as a witness for the FBI to testify against the mob. So everybody is looking for this guy. And this guy is not someone who is comfortable with guns or anything like that. He is literally an accountant. And Charles Grodin plays him with the driest and most sarcastic level of humor that I've ever seen performed in a character anywhere ever.
Yeah, and the fun, and I can see why he was chosen for that role, because that's kind of how, if you ever see him as a guest on a talk show, there's some great stuff. If people have, anyone hasn't seen the interviews that he did with Johnny Carson in particular, he plays that same character. He is.
See if you can find that
so perfect.
See if you can find that on YouTube, and we'll drop it in the chat. So other people are mentioning other members of the cast. Well, let's get on to those, because this definitely has a much stronger ensemble cast. Yes, it's De Niro and Grodin's movie. But if you look at the other, you've got Joe Pantoliano, who's in both. But we also have Dennis Farina, who wasn't that well known then. Yaphet Kotto, who of course was extremely well known. I'd just seen him on. I just saw him on stage about 2 years after this. Philip Baker Hall has a small role in it, who would become a much bigger actor later in films like Magnolia and so on. You have John Ashton, who had been in Beverly Hills Cop. He plays a rival bounty hunter. He's absolutely great in this, because he was a real clean-cut, sort of cool policeman, conservative policeman in Beverly Hills Cop. And in this, he's a chain-smoking, grizzly, slightly dumb bounty hunter who's Jack Kehoe. Do you know what? That sadly passed away recently, who plays the assistant to the bail bondsman. Yeah, he passed away in 2020. And here he is in Midnight Run. Do you know what film he was in very early on in his career? Big movie.
No, I really don't.
With Paul Newman and Robert Shaw.
Oh, the Sting.
Yeah, he is one of the team in the Sting. Pulls off the Sting. He's the young lad in it.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, and you remember he's in the queue, and he's saying, "Oh, I wanted to put my money all on Lucky Dan," or he's one of the ones in the queue behind and going, "Oh yeah, it didn't work out." We've got to do a retro review of the Sting. So many young people probably never seen that movie. And you know what? I watched that movie as a kid because I thought there was going to be like full of action, and I kind of fell asleep. Just this is boring. Then I watched it again as not an adult, but I guess I was probably about 17 or 18. I was like, this is so good. How did I miss this before? As a kid, you don't take in the story in the same way.
It's funny because I was doing a film with Robert Redford, and it was on the Monday morning, first day of meeting Robert Redford, and the night before I just watched The Sting, so I've got on set, and there's Robert Redford, and of course, one of the production department had come over and said, you only refer to Mr. Redford as Mr. Redford, and don't call him anything other than Mr. Redford, and only speak to him if he speaks to you. And of course, he came over to me and and he said, "Oh, yeah, how you doing?" I said, "Yeah, I'm very well, Mr. Redford. Yourself?" He said, "You can call me Bob." So all the way through the shoot, I was calling him Bob, and I actually said to him, "It's funny because last night I watched The Sting." And he kind of, not that he was reminiscing about it, but he said, "Good movie, is it?" I said, "Yeah, great movie." But yeah, he was nice. I liked him.
That's interesting because you hear a lot of mixed stories about Robert Redford.
Yeah, you do. I found him very affable. I found him very affable.
I think it all depends on kind of how someone's met him and under what circumstances. But there's a lot of stuff of him getting very excited about projects and then kind of pulling back.
Yeah.
But I mean, Yaphet Kotto has famously said that he had a miserable time on this movie.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, predominantly because Martin Brest took endless takes. I've not heard any bad stories about Yaphet Kotto. Someone who I've always been told extremely professional, etc., etc., etc. So maybe he felt that 5 or 6 takes was enough. I mean, as a director, I want to move on to the next shot as soon as I can.
Yeah. See, he's a very. He is an actor's actor. He really was an actor's actor, and an extraordinarily professional man. And I was absolutely devastated when he passed away. Absolutely devastated.
Yeah, I've followed his career since Alien.
Yeah, Yeah.
And I really like him in Homicide: Life on the Street. And I last year, when lots of personal shit was going on, one of the ways I coped with things was to binge watch big shows, you know.
Yeah.
Especially when I couldn't sleep, and that was one of the shows that I binged. And I had I can't remember if I had a box set that someone had given me or whatever, but I had the physical thing, and that exists in the same world as Oz.
Yeah.
They're in the same universe.
Yeah.
So occasionally there are characters that transcend. And Yaphet Kotto died, and so did Munch from Law and Order, who also exists in all those worlds.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
the only
Yeah.
actor that's been in all of those shows. They died within a relatively short space of each other, and I knew Munch had retired from acting to France, and I was actually in the process of trying to track him down. Richard Belzer, his name was, I was trying to get him to come on the channel for an interview. I mean, I would have loved to have interviewed Charles Grodin.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, but hey, see if you can find that link, and if you find it, stick it in the private chat, and I'll put it in the thing.
Will do.
Jim D said Martin Brest did not often make films, but when he did, they were very good. Except his final film, Gigi, killed his career. Yeah, mate, it only takes one film to sink your career, and don't I know it? I loved Beverly Hills Cop. This is definitely Martin Brest's best movie. Just take a quick look to see what else he's done. I mean, it would be good to try and get him on for an interview, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
Scent of a Woman. I have to say,
Of course.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's a toss up for me. Midnight Run. I mean, they're two completely different films.
Yeah.
And I rewatched them about the same. I mean, God, you know, that last speech. Yeah, and I guess that was Jiggly was his last movie. What? I watched Meet Joe Black recently again.
Yeah.
And I saw that at the cinema. And I fell asleep at one point.
Yeah.
When I saw it at the cinema, and there's not often that I'll fall asleep. But when I rewatched it this time, and I could pause it and go to the toilet and all that kind of thing, I really enjoyed it. Actually.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a beautiful film, and I really do. I think there's so many elements to that film that
you know what we
quite
could do the films of Martin Brest. That would be a good stream.
That would be a good
stream.
We
could talk about all of them. Cover Midnight Run really briefly because we're doing that today. So anyone else in the cast of Midnight Run we want to mention before we move on to I guess the content of the films, and Philip Baker Hall we mentioned. Oh, there is somebody I want to mention. There is an amazing scene in Midnight Run with Jack's ex-wife, who married one of his old colleagues because Jack left the force because he wouldn't take a bribe, which is a great backstory for him.
Yeah.
And he hasn't seen his daughter in many years, and she walks through the door, and she's played by this actress, Danielle Duclos. This is her, and it may be that she's not done a lot. We'll have a look. This is that scene.
Yeah.
That scene is so powerful.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, he's like, you got so big, and then the moment where she comes out to the car, and like, I've saved up $187. It's yours. I heard you need money, and he's like, I can't take it. And Charles Grodin's just giving it a look.
Yeah.
And he develops all these different looks for the Duke, some of which are intentionally there to play comedy, some of which are you can see him warming to Jack's humanity, which at first he doesn't think he has.
Yeah.
And it's because he sees all these sides to him that he kind of helps him out at the end of the film. But that young girl is great in this
she
movie.
really is. And it's funny
just
that
nine films.
Earlier that you mentioned about the the female characters within both movies. I think those particular scenes, they give you I mean, they're very economical.
Yeah.
But they're economical to the extent whereas they give you absolutely all you need to know about those characters, about the humanity of the characters.
Yeah.
They tell you everything, and I think this is in particular, this is the genius of Midnight Run. I think it's yeah, that particular scene is it's a very, very powerful scene.
So let's talk about the films themselves then. They're both I think they're both a pretty similar length. Maybe Midnight Run is 2 hours 6 minutes, including the credits.
Yeah.
Running Scared, I think, is a bit shorter.
Yeah, I think we're probably looking at 1 1 3/4 hours, maybe in that ballpark. It certainly
Let me
doesn't
check.
seem as long as Midnight Run.
107 minutes.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, so it's not over the 2 hour mark.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. It doesn't need to be any longer. Midnight Run establishes a lot more and has a lot more backstory scenes. It also is juggling multiple characters and
Yeah.
storylines.
Yeah.
So you've got you've got the storyline with Jack and the Duke, but you've also got the storyline with Alonzo, FBI, and then you've also got I love that bit where De Niro turns around with the badge. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
After he's stolen the ID from him and he turns around in the street. I don't know if there might be a still of that. We can have a look. And then you've also got the storyline of the bail bondsman, and occasionally you cut to scenes with them.
Yeah.
So there's a few narratives, and then you've got the storyline with the gangsters. Two actors I want to mention before we go back to Running Scared, actually, who I forgot to give a shout out to in Midnight Run. Actually, I can't believe I nearly forgot to do that. Is the two actors who play the two gangsters of Dennis Farina's, who are on
more on number 1 and more on number 2.
Yeah, and they're great together.
Yeah, they're
and
really good. Yeah.
I love. So one of them is Robert Miranda. They haven't done loads of stuff. They are both still alive. I mean, God, wouldn't it be great if you could get them on a street?
Oh wow, yeah.
This is them together here. They have a really everybody's dialogue in this movie. It's so natural, and I get the impression that there was a little bit of improv, especially from the guy in the middle, who I think is Robert Miranda. Because and then there's that scene where he's calling the boss man on the phone, and Robert Miranda's like kind of like kicking him for fun.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What are you doing? Just like leave me alone." And they're playing the scene straight, but it's just the fact that it sets up that these guys have worked together like many, many times. And Richard, I think you probably pronounce that Ferrone. Is it Ferrone J or Ferroni? And again, here he is in same still in Midnight Run. He's on the left, and he's on the right in the Gambler. God, that's going back a bit. So he's been around for a long time. Slightly more credits, I think. 78, yeah, and his last one was in 2003. But for me, it's the little details and the great stuff with the supporting characters, particularly Dennis Farina as well. Sydney, don't look at me like that. I'm going to stab you through the heart with a fucking pencil. Those bits, some of which.
But he's so good, isn't he? He's so good.
Yeah. I mean, Dennis Farina's having a lot of fun in this.
Doesn't he kind of remind you of? It kind of reminds me of the Ray Bones character in Get Shorty.
Ray Barbones, yeah.
Ray Barboni, yeah, Ray Bones.
And then, Midnight Run is just so quotable. It's so funny. Get Shorty's that's a film we need to do a stream on. That'd be a good watch party, actually. Yeah, you're gonna propose? Yeah, they're standing really close to De Niro. Do you know what? I've said that line to somebody in the supermarket when I was like doing my thing with a credit card, and they're already like right up behind me, and I turned around and I said, "You're gonna propose?"
It is so infinitely quotable. It's so quotable.
Yeah, keep those quotes coming, chat. I'd like to see your favorite lines in the chat. Also, I'd like to know who saw this at the cinema. Who saw these at the cinema when they came out? Because I did. I saw Midnight Run in America, and of the films I saw in 1988, I'll read out my review of it actually in a sec. It's in my book, and of the films I saw that year, this was number 2. So Die Hard was my favorite. Midnight Run was my second favorite, and I gave it an amazing review in here. And then I somehow I got to see 8 Men Out in 1988. Not quite sure how that happened. Right. Okay. So yeah, let's go back to Running Scared. So the other thing that's quite important in films like this is action.
Yeah.
And they've both got 2 or 3 pretty good action
Set
scenes.
pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, set pieces. That's a good way to describe them. The one in Running Scared, I mean, there's this gunfight in this apartment is I don't know if that's the big gunfight in the apartment. No, that's the one where they get them to put the guns down. Right. So it's the car chase on the L.
On the L, yeah.
And one thing that Peter Hyams is very good at directing is car chases. And I think that's something of a specialty of his, because every action film he's done, I'm pretty sure there's a car chase in it.
Yeah, and I think he was because he was infinitely impressed with, he was under the impression, or he believes that in his opinion, that the greatest car chase of all was in The French Connection, which is why he wanted to do the L chase. He kind of wanted to do something similar, but not quite the same as French Connection. And I think it was his stunt coordinator had said, and he was quite an elderly stunt coordinator. He said, look, if you drive fast enough, you can actually get the car on the rails and it will fit on the rails. And he said, I'll show you. So he showed him and he said, Jesus Christ, we've got to do this. So
Right.
of course, Peter Hyams went back to Alan Ladd Jr., who was head of the studio that particular time, and said, look, we've got this idea, but it and a half going to cost you. So he said, yeah, whatever you want. He said, it sounds like a great idea. And of course, they did it for real, apart from the final bit. I think it was the car being crushed by the train. Everything else was done as you see it. The last bit was done in the studio back in LA.
Yeah, there was I think there was a bit where, and I think there's one shot where I felt the footage was speeded up a little bit, but I mean, maybe not. The final shootout is in this building, and I meant to make a note of the name, but it's a very big, prominent sort of glass.
Oh, I think it's called something like the State Building or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. I think it's State County Hall or something like that.
Yeah. And it just been constructed. They just finished it. In fact, it wasn't even finished.
So
when they shot it.
a bit like the upper floors of the Nakatomi building for 20th
Yeah,
Century
exactly that.
Yeah,
Exactly
it did
that.
feel like they were probably the first people to use this location, because I'd never seen it. Now, having watched the film again, I feel that the action scenes in Running Scared are good. I feel the climactic action scene in Running Scared could have been better.
Yeah.
It's a great location. They use it well, but there's one bit where Billy Crystal is on the rope and he's swinging and he's trying to get momentum.
Yeah.
To then go over the thing, and he doesn't really get any momentum up at all. And then a guard appears and he shoots the guard, and then he gets over. But that wasn't. It didn't look right for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good gunfight, but I think it could have been slightly better. I do prefer this poster to the UK poster. I think it's funny.
But do you think maybe they were kind of short on time? I'm not sure whether they were short on budget. I think it may have been a time constraints, perhaps.
The budget for the film was I think it's in here. But hang on. So let's have a quick look. It made 38 mil at the box office, which I think the budget was around 14. I remember reading 14.
I believe you're right, actually. I think it was precisely 14.
Yeah, and it was shot early in '86 and released in the summer of '86.
Yeah, I think they started shooting in the fall of '85.
Did they?
They did. In the fall of '85, I think they started the
Yeah, you're right. Sorry,
studio
September
stuff.
of '85 to January '86, and that would have been why. Of course, they make Chicago look very unhospitable. It's very cold. It's very bleak. It's very grey. you see it either covered in ice or at night.
Yeah.
And
Apparently they did have the worst winter they'd had in something like 30 years or something. It was absolute, and one of the crew, I think it was one of the camera crew, had to be rushed to hospital with hypothermia.
really,
Yeah.
it did look very, very cold. So I guess the fact that they're wearing long johns under the pants, under
Yeah.
the jeans, was probably the norm for people in those
Yeah.
living in
But
Chicago.
but believe it or not, as the shoot progressed, I think the opening location stuff was done earlier where there was more snow.
Right.
But of course, when they carried on doing the rest of the location stuff in Chicago, they had to they had to bring
Melvin
their
says
own snow.
Jimmy Smits was the baddie. Yeah, we talked about the cast earlier. I
He was
think.
great, Jimmy Smith.
I mean, I haven't rated Running Scared on uh, IMDb yet. Now, I would normally give this film a 7.
Mm.
Overall, for me, it's a 7. But the reason I'm giving it an 8 is partly because their chemistry is amazing,
Oh, it
and
really is
partly because
fantastic.
it ties into a personal thing in my life,
Yeah, yeah.
that makes an 8 for me. It's probably a 7. It's got 6.5 on IMDb. I think that's a little bit harsh.
Very harsh.
But if you look at the um, reviews, unoriginal but great fun. Yeah, it's not a particularly original film.
See, I think the people that are actually rating it that way, obviously, if
And somebody else said the original buddy
looking,
cop action film.
it really is the original buddy cop action film. This you got to remember this did come before Lethal Weapon,
Funny
and this
enough,
was kind of like the one that
it
kicked
did.
off the buddy
Yeah.
cop movies. Yeah, this was the one
Peter
that kicked it
Hyams
off.
did Peter Hyams' first film was a cop buddy movie. And they showed it at the Prince Charles last year. I can't remember the name of it, but I'll tell you. Let's have a quick look. And I was going to go and see it, but then I couldn't make it that day. But his first, his directing debut, here you go, was Busting with
Right.
Elliot Gould and Robert Blake, about two
Oh, right.
cops.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never seen it, or at least if I did see it as a kid, I've forgotten. And yeah, they did a Peter Hyams season, which is how I got to see
Mm.
Capricorn 1 on the big screen. And for those people who want to know more about that, that's the Prince Charles Cinema. Let me go back. That's the film High Risk, which is a whole other conversation. So yeah, so what would you give it out of 10? Running Scared?
I would have to say definitely an 8, a pretty solid 8, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Film debuted number 5 at the UK US box office. Did pretty well. Now the soundtrack did very well, and there's something I want to talk about in relevance to the soundtrack
Extremely well, yeah.
before we wrap up. So Shine Sweet Freedom by Michael McDonald is an absolutely awesome song. And whenever I put it on the headphones, I can see the video for it with
Yeah.
everybody on roller skates. And the video was shot at the same time they shot the movie when they were down in Key West. And it's a good little music video. This is at the height of MTV, of course. Now, Man Size Love, which is one of the other songs, which is really great, that was written by Rob Temperton, who actually did the soundtrack, was performed by a band called Climax, which until I researched this, I didn't really know who they were. They are an all-girl R&B band, which you wouldn't expect to have a song for sort of R&B dance pop on a sort of an American buddy cop thing. I wonder if Gregory Hines was friends of theirs. I did a bit of digging about them, and they're all still around. And they have a really complicated history of different people falling out and going off to do solo careers that don't work out, and this kind of thing,
Yeah. Well, new members coming in, and
yeah, all of that stuff. But
yeah.
there's various members that have different websites. I did actually post on one of them's Facebook page and said, look, I'm going to be talking about Running Scared tonight, but I've got to show you a picture of this group. Hang on, if I can get a decent photo. Oh yes, here we go. So this is a great I think this is them sort of nowish. Oh, hang on, not that one. So if we go here and to here we go. This is Climax.
Right.
Now, I don't think this must be there now. I don't think the white lady was in it in the 80s, at least not from the pictures I've seen. These
No.
these three ladies in the middle are definitely three of the original members.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure about the one with the hot pants on the end. But anyway, we won't go there. But that song it's really funny because you hear it in the film and you just kind of it's a fun song that goes along with the film. Then you see the people that sing it. Then you actually look at the title, "Man-Sized Love." What does that mean? And then you listen to it again. It's like, this song has a whole different meaning to what I actually thought when I saw the movie. So it's one of the fun things about doing streams like this is you you find that. So Melvin's saying, yeah, that was a big hit. It was in the charts in the UK. I remember.
Yeah, it was.
Again, as I said, I have the album's here. It's on the album. Great album. I used to put it on quite a lot. It's a good fun upbeat one. So yeah, but that's Climax. There's not much of a score for the movie. There's one track on the album, which is the L chase sequence.
I think this is where strangely this has perhaps more in common with something like Beverly Hills Cop because of its music. That kind of it kind of gives it that kind of feel.
It's much more. It's much similar to Beverly Hills Cop as opposed to, which, funnily enough, is directed by Martin Brest as opposed to Martin Brest's next movie. And I think also it came out. Beverly Hills Cop was 84 or 85.
I think it was.
I want to say 85 because I know I took my dad to see it. I know me and my dad went to see Ghostbusters a few months before that, and that was 84 for sure. And I remember that my dad had never heard so much swearing in a movie before, but it actually did make him laugh because that was the first time somebody made swearing in a movie cool, but it only worked that one time. That was a limited gag for Eddie Murphy. Get the fuck out of here. We hadn't quite heard people swear like that in films before. I remember when you and I were kids and you'd hear like shit in a Smokey and the Bandit film or something, we'd all kind of go, oh, naughty word. He kind of put that on a whole different level for us, of course. But anything else we want to say about Running Scared?
Well, I mean,
I'd like to know what people in the chat give it out of 10 as well. Rate people in the chat.
I'd like
Running
to know
Scared out of 10. But yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I love it. It's great. It's a lot of fun, and I like some of the stories behind it. And I think that, I think the two leads are exceptional. Gregory Hines, I think, was just a wonderful human being. Full stop. Billy Crystal, especially with his improv skills as well. Absolutely perfect pairing. You would have never put them together.
No,
but it was such a genius piece of casting with the pair of them.
And you definitely could have made a sequel to this.
There was a sequel planned.
Yeah,
there was actually a sequel planned. Oh no, what was the reason behind it not going ahead?
Because I think the film did enough box office. I don't think the sequel would have been anything great. It just would have been another very similar story, and that they probably would have tied in.
Yeah, it was. I believe it was because the script was there. It was called Still Running.
That's right. Yeah, I remember reading that in Empire magazine, or it was announced or something.
Yeah, it was called Still Running, and they were all ready to do it, and something happened, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was.
Let me have a quick look.
No, it was I think it was Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines had said they weren't particularly happy with the script. They said, get the script right, and we'll definitely do it.
Right.
I don't. It wasn't Gary DeVore that wrote the script for the second one, but there was a script written.
You're right. Here we go. A sequel titled Still Running was planned and different scripts were written, but Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines did not think any of them were strong enough to warrant a sequel and turned them all down.
Mm.
So, yeah, there you go. Okay.
But they were great casting. But I mean, one of the moments I think for me was the bit where he's on the phone and he does his improv as the old
Oh,
guy is watching
they don't
Jeopardy.
pay me no
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Those guys, they don't pay me.
You
Mama,
dummy, you dummy. The answer
mama,
was
mama.
Ipswich Clan. Will you put some more petite marshmallows in my hot cocoa,
In
please?
my hot cocoa. That's not the right answer. That bit was so funny. I remember cracking up.
Gotta go now. Final Jeopardy, Mom.
I saw this at the Screen One Plaza Cinema. Do you remember the Plaza in Piccadilly
Yeah.
Circus?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do.
And for those people listening from America, it was a really good 4-screen cinema in central London. I can't remember what the first film was that I saw there, but if there was a movie that I wanted to see and it was on in Screen One, it was also owned by the Empire, and the biggest movies went to Empire Screen One. The second biggest movie went to Plaza Screen One. And I remember I saw Always There with Richard Dreyfuss.
Oh, yeah.
I saw Biggles, and I saw Young Sherlock Holmes. I think Young Sherlock Holmes might have been the first one I saw at Plaza Screen One.
Yeah.
So we got a couple of ratings here. Vin Weasel, generous 9 out of 10.
Yeah, that's pretty good, actually.
7.5 out of 10. I mean, the reason I'm not rating it higher is it's a great film and I love it and it's very watchable. But why? And we're going to go on to Midnight Run now. Midnight Run is fleshed out. The characters, the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
The characters are very grounded. There's the conflict between the two main characters makes the film slightly more interesting. You don't have that in Running Scared. These guys are best mates. They never fall out in the movie at all, apart from when one gets the bird over the other, and even then, that's not a major fallout.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something that was missing from the film, but then Peter Hyams did say he just wanted to make a fun movie.
Yeah.
So I don't think they were aiming for that kind of.
No,
drama.
I mean, fair play. I mean, if that's what he wanted to do, then he definitely succeeded with that.
But it is a very good movie. It's one of the first buddy cop films, if not the first. Certainly, maybe the first comedy.
Yeah, I think it was the first one that sort of had that comedic sort of twist. Although the one that you mentioned earlier, what was it called? The one with Elliot Gould that you mentioned.
Yeah, Busting.
I can imagine that. Obviously, Elliot Gould is great at comedy. He's a fantastic comedy actor.
Yeah.
I should imagine that's of a similar kind of.
It's probably a trial. It's probably a bit of a trial run for this. I'd be very
interested you're probably right.
To go back and have a look at it. Gonna see if I can get it. I have seen it on Blu-ray, but it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Interesting that people have brought up a show that I do remember, Dick Turpin. I can remember the theme tune. And then you had and the actor who played Dick Turpin's number 2, was it Spike or was
Swiftnick?
Swiftnick, right?
Yeah,
he never did anything else. That was like his only acting.
He was in A Bridge Too Far.
Was he?
He was the guy that do you remember when the guy's carrying the big sort of canister that's been dropped with all the berets in?
Is he the one that goes, Jesus Christ? Oh shit! Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so we did a couple of things.
Yeah, that's the only other thing that I've seen him in. I can't think of anything. I mean, he was probably in things like, The Professionals and Minder and that kind of, the usual.
Well, we won't go down that rabbit hole now. But David and Melvin, we may well do a Dick Turpin retro. I'd be quite curious to go back and watch a couple of those and see how it holds up.
I haven't seen that in years.
Me and the Inside Man are going to be doing a Spartacus stream. We're going to do a watch party of the pilot, maybe episode 2 as well. I'm not sure when we're going to do that, but we're going to do it soon. And I'm a big fan of that show, and I was watching it. I got into it really late, and I'll talk about it on the stream. But I was watching it not knowing that Andy Whitfield had literally just died.
Yeah.
And we were Googling that and seeing, and we got the older stories about him. So we were like, oh, he's fighting for his life, you know. But he literally hit that week. He just passed away as I got to the last episode. So yeah. Anyway, that's a story for another time.
It's funny because I was actually listening to the music of that sort of over the weekend, and there's some interesting music.
Yeah,
Interesting music
it's
in
got a
it. Yeah.
great score.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like everything about that show. I mean, again, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but I like everything about that show, from the way that they do the dialogue in a sort of an old-fashioned style, you know, like with the word gratitude is a kind of a separate thing.
Yeah.
Let me get this. That's the wrong screen. Yeah, it's a you know, it's a good show. It's a really good show. So going back to Midnight Run now. Unfortunately, there's do you know, I used to have a set of lobby stills for this movie.
Oh, did you?
I had a set of lobby stills, and I don't think I've got them now, and I had the original UK cinema poster, which had a very blue background, and it was a bit more like a 70s action poster. It had like the helicopter and an explosion. I think this was the pose. It had this pose.
Yeah.
And then sort of, you know, various other characters. There's more action in Midnight Run, I think.
And it's quite it's a bit of a travelogue, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
It's kind of you know, a sort of a, you know, state by state travelogue. And I think the music sort of reflects that as well. If you
because
listen to track by track, you
yeah,
know.
as the journey gets harder, that music goes down, wow, wow, and then when it gets into the, like, when they're out in the desert, it's got like almost a western cowboy.
Yeah, there was some of it kind of reminded me a little bit of Ry Cooder's stuff from Paris, Texas.
Yeah.
You know, but it's almost like, you know, it's a musical journey across the states, and it's a bit of a travelogue across the states as well. And there are so many facets to this film.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been, if they had cast anyone other than Charles Grodin, it would have probably been a good film, but not a great film. If they'd cast Cher, it would have been a catastrophe.
Oh,
I'm sorry, but that would
yeah.
have been a like Nuns on the Run kind of thing, you know, just stupid. One of my favorite scenes in the film, and there are many to choose from.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see if how chat react to this. Is the scene, it's not long after this scene, where they've gone through hell, they've been chased by a helicopter, they've been shot at, the car's been blown up, they're walking, they go into that cafe, and they're both covered in, they're caked in dirt and mud, and they're exhausted, their hair is all matted and everything, and he pulls out that change from his pocket, and the woman sort of, the waitress comes up to them and, would you like, you know, tea or coffee? And counts for the change. And Charles Grodin's like, I'll have tea. And then, what's the special today? And she's like, chorizo and eggs. And what's that? And I'd never heard of chorizo. I didn't even know didn't know that it meant a sausage. And she describes it. And it's just a brilliant scene, because she plays it straight. It sounds like the best meal ever.
Yeah.
And then you can see like Charles Grodin sort of salivating, and then Robert De Niro just cuts in. Yeah, we won't be having that, thank you. It's just brilliant. It's just brilliant.
I like the and it kind of goes back to what you said about the characters being based on his parents. The argument in the car. You lied first. No, you lied. You lied
You
first.
lied to me first, Jack.
No, you lied first. Yeah, it does. You know, now you've said that, you can kind of tell. It's almost like it is a little bit of a marriage.
Yeah,
really.
yeah. There's another funny scene. There's two scenes actually I want to talk about as well. One is when they pretend to be FBI officers and they go into that bar. And they do the litmus test on the money, and that's the first time they work in tandem to deceive somebody. And Charles Grodin's character, the Duke, he goes in and he plays like the hardcore FBI man, and Jack can sort of like can't quite believe how good he is at doing it. They get him all the time, huh? You get him all the time. Sounds like our man, yeah, and all that. That stuff is hilarious. Hey, Matt's in the house, man.
Hey.
I thought you were like you're furiously packing before the taxi arrives, dude. If you want to come in and say hi quickly, I'm going to drop you. I'll drop you the link in chat on Facebook right now. So if you want to say hi before you jump into your taxi for the airport, he's probably gone already, but I'll drop it. I'll drop it in anyway, just in case, man. You want to come and say hi? There it is. I'll put it in your Facebook inbox. So Matthew is Two Tone Pictures is Matthew Holmes, who's a film director. If you guys want to check out his movie, the trailer for it, the latest one is called The Cost. He shot it in lockdown for peanuts. It's a superb film. But he's also done some bigger budget films like The Legend of Ben Hall, and he's got a couple of others coming out. And he's written an amazing Jason and the Argonauts script that both myself and oh my god, we're doing scenes. We're doing scenes from it at the Outcasts next week.
Oh, brilliant!
Yes, if you want to come down, remember I said that's the best night for you to come.
Oh, I would love to. I would love to.
I'll put you in. I'll put you in one of them. So come down and you can meet Matt that night.
What yeah, so you really enjoyed it.
I'm doing the scene with Pegasus at the dinner where he's great scene, right?
Yeah, really good scene.
But Matt's done this amazing Jason and the Argonauts script. I might see if we can try and convince him to do like a live online reading of it with a load of actors. That could be really
interesting.
That'd be
yes, it would. Yeah.
David Macy's wishing you a great journey, Matt. I suspect he probably hasn't got time, but he's probably already gone. But 2 minutes. Anyway, so my problem is I watch most things. Oh no, not that one. This one. Out of 20 years. Oh, here he is.
G'day.
Hey. Hang on. Mr. Holmes.
Hello.
You do indeed look like you're going to the Arctic or something.
It feels like the Arctic here. It's probably like a summer's day for England, but over here it feels like a very cold winter day.
Mate, now I know that I've got to change the sheets in the spare room. You're on your way. So
I am on my way. I will be heading off in a few hours to the airport. We're furiously packing and getting everything ready. So yeah.
Brilliant, mate. Fantastic stuff. We've had more or less like 10 people watching the whole time we've been doing this stream. We had 12 people when we started.
It's been really good. I've got to say though, Matt, we've missed you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I would have been pretty useless in this whole thing because I've never seen these two films.
Yeah, but you're going to be watching Midnight Run when you come here. So
that's right. So I'll catch up with it soon.
You're gonna be wanting to purchase Midnight Run after you've seen it. You may not want to purchase Invasion USA, but you'll have fun watching it.
Well, hey, it's not available. It's one of the reasons I've never seen it is never been available on Blu-ray here in Australia. So I'm hoping to get a copy while I'm over there in the UK.
Yeah. We'll see what we can do about that. All right, man. Well, I've got a packed out schedule of cinema trips, all kinds of little visits, and even some tabletop gaming planned for you.
Oh wow! Well,
I'm gonna have a whole big setup ready for you in the kitchen.
Okay,
so, it's gonna be fun, man.
It's gonna be a fun week.
Yeah. So how long are you over for, Matt?
I'm over for about 30 days in the UK.
Wow.
But only a week of that's in London, sadly, and
about a week or so in London. So yeah.
So
and then I'm scouring the country, looking for doing the touristy thing. So and probably checking out some film locations.
I was just going to say, it sounded like you were just going to finish that off by saying and looking for some locations.
Yeah.
Well, I'll hopefully see some things with their filmed movies and stuff like that. I always like.
Well, there's a good Scottish film commission. So David Macy's asking if you're travelling to Yorkshire. I don't know where the wedding is, where you're going to.
No, Yorkshire. No, I don't think so.
Matt, I need to know. Do you know if you're travelling on the 21st or the 22nd of July? Because if you're not travelling on the 21st, or at least you can travel late on the 21st, you and I are going to go and see Oppenheimer as well.
Ooh. Yeah, it is a treat.
And that'll be the opening day.
I'm gonna have to get back to you on that, so I'll send you a message.
Yeah, get back to me when you know, and then because then
it's always confusing because it's always I'm always thinking of your 21st.
Yeah,
not mine.
Well, our 21st is the Friday. I think your wedding you're going to is on the Sunday, so you're not sure if you're traveling on the Saturday or the Friday yet. But even if you're traveling on the Friday, but you're traveling late, we can go and see it in the afternoon. So, but that's the opening day, and it will be great to see a movie on the opening day. Whereas when we see Mission Impossible, we're seeing it a week late.
Sure. All right. Well, I'll let me get back to you on that. I'll find out.
All right, mate. We better let you skedaddle.
Yes, I better keep moving.
Listen, tell Nadia I send my best and a list of vegetables to purchase for your for the food shop for when you're here would be appreciated if she could send.
All right, I'll send you a list.
All right, wicked, mate.
All right, take care, mate. Have a good flight.
All right.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, take care. Bye.
See you, mate.
Thank you, bro.
Wicked. That was nice. I thought he was already. I thought he was already on the move, but he's literally waiting for the taxi to take him to the airport. So, guys, if you want to check out the work of Matthew Holmes, look him up on IMDb. He did The Legend of Ben Hall. Check out the Cost trailer. You'll find it. Just look up Cost trailer. The Cost. Great trailer. One of the best trailers I've ever seen, and they paid a lot of money for that trailer. But it was worth every penny. So where were we? Going back to Midnight Run, we're talking about the action and just also special moments, I guess, in the movie. I mean, of the, like I said, I hadn't seen Running Scared in quite a while, but I do watch Midnight Run. I think probably every 3 years I'll watch it. Certainly, I'm single at the moment, but as soon as I've got a new permanent partner, this will definitely be one of those kind of, right, we've got 10 films we've got to watch. This is one of them, So, it's probably more like 100 films actually. But
you're right. It's one of those films that is infinitely rewatchable. And I think that's where, when we were doing our top 5 fantasy, I think it was, we were really sort of going by the rewatchability, if there is such a word.
That was a factor for sure.
And this really has got that.
And you notice little things in it. I mean, I've probably spotted everything now, but I do remember, like, the second and third time I watched it, I was always picking up on little nuances, especially with the performances of the two leads. John Ashton is very good in this. And I was surprised as a result of this performance that we didn't see him in a plethora of varied roles, because he really showed that he could do a character that was nothing like his role in Beverly Hills Cop. And I like all his scenes. Marvin. Yaphet Kotto, we've talked about at length already. He looks about as happy as he claimed to be in that photo. God, De Niro looks so young here, and I mean, this is kind of in the middle of his career, I guess. I believe you own that jumper, don't you?
Yeah.
Isn't that on your props list? So we just lost Charles Grodin, which is such a shame.
I mean, what an interesting man. I mean, a really funny guy, naturally funny guy.
I find him and Albert Brooks, if you know him from Broadcast News. I find him and Albert Brooks very similar characters, and I was doing a top 10. It's on my blog, and I'll probably do a YouTube video of it. But like my top 10 favorite character actors in America, and God, it was so hard to just pick 10, and they weren't in any particular order. And my toss-up was between Charles Grodin and Albert Brooks for like spot number 10.
I can see that. The similarity.
In the end, Albert Brooks got it because I was just that bit of a bigger fan of Albert Brooks because he'd done more stuff, whereas Grodin kind of did this. He did the Beethoven movies. He did a couple of other roles, but not like loads of.
Was it Clifford? Was it
Clifford? You don't look much like a criminal. No, indeed. Do you watch the Justified TV show? Justified? Do you watch that?
No. In a word.
That's an interesting cover. Not seen that one before. Fuga a la medianoche. So that so I don't know what noche is. That buona noche. That's
night. Yeah. So noche is.
So is that fuga? So does that fuck it? It's midnight run. Is that what that means? I don't know. So can anybody who's just watching and not talking chime in, please? Yeah, please do. If you've got interesting chat as well, we'd like to know what would you give Midnight Run out of 10. I'd also like to know if you saw the movie in the cinema when it came out in '88. And don't forget that Midnight Run features in my new novel. I'm going to plug it every time because it's just come out.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
1988. I'm terrible at plugging myself, man. It took me long enough to do this YouTube channel. I should have done it ages ago. But it's my diary from 1988. But I also review all the movies that I saw that year. And then also the funny thing about the diary is older me tells off younger me for making lots of silly decisions in all the entries. I will warn you now that it does read like a season of Dawson's Creek. Lots of whinging about girls. So, so we've got one vote.
I still do that.
Yeah, and that's just to the wife.
Yeah.
Now this is the UK poster, but this is a portrait. But the landscape version of that poster I do have, I think, still somewhere. And so that was the yeah, there you go. That's the UK poster, very tiny shot of one. I think I like the simplicity of the American one. Not keen on that one. But yeah, great film. I don't think I've seen another movie with a pairing of people where they're adversarial in nature, but eventually grow to like and even love each other in a way.
Yeah,
that works quite as well as this. I mean, maybe there's probably Alan, the guy that was in MASH, Alan.
Oh, Alan Alda.
Alan Alda has done some great romantic comedies where he's opposite a woman and they have a very similar arc.
Oh,
but obviously those are very different types of films, but the relationship is very similar.
It's funny. I saw. I haven't seen it in a while, but do you remember a film called that Alan Alda was in, called California Suite?
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah. I haven't seen it in years.
And I just tracked down, because I debated doing it on stage. I just tracked down on Blu-ray same time next year.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get there isn't a British copy of it available. So I had to get El Primo a la Misa Hora. But this did actually come with an English booklet this was a play originally, and then they made it into a movie. Now, guess who one of the actors was who took over from Alan Alda at the Broadway production? Charles Grodin.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
In fact, he may have even. I've got the original. I've got the booklet here that came with it. It's a lovely little movie. And the if I read, it does say somewhere in here, I think. Of course, half the booklet's in a different language. But there's
go on, have a stab. Go on.
Anyway, no, I'm not going to attempt it. But yeah, no, I read it, either the original. It might have even been that the original cast was Charles Grodin, and they got Alan Alda to do the movie because he was a bigger name. But they've both been in it on stage as well.
Yeah.
It's a nice little film. I mean, we were talking about the action in the film, or we haven't really talked about it much. God, it's gone on to an advert for some alien thing. Let's get rid of that. So I like the action in this movie. It's often quite farcical. I particularly like the scene where they get ambushed when they get off the Greyhound bus with all the snipers. A lot of the action is played for comedy, but it's also quite gripping. Here's a funny thing. You know the scene where they end up in the river?
Yeah.
Did you know that the second half of that, guess where that was shot? Because it was shot in the Arizona Rapids,
right?
I think near Grand Canyon. But but the water was so cold and they wanted the actors in the water. So they had to pick a river where the water was warmer. Do you know where that river was? New Zealand.
No.
Yeah. So they went and filmed. They took a unit over to New Zealand with, I think it was mainly Charles Grodin, I think, that's in the water. But I think they probably both went. And they shot, because the water was too cold, they shot that sequence.
The magic of movies.
Yeah. And it's funny because I could picture some Hollywood executive going, why do you need to go to New Zealand to shoot the end of the river scene? That's like an extra. Hang on, that's an extra $500,000. Why are we taking the unit to New Zealand? Because the water's too cold. Well, we've got a tank in the studio. Let's film it there, but it won't look like the river. Well, I don't know. Okay, well then put a stuntman in a scuba diving. No, we need to have a shot of Charles Grodin. It won't work.
Yeah.
That conversation. Trust me, that conversation definitely happened. And
always does. I'm pretty sure of that as well.
He must have dug his heels in. And anyone else, if you want to rate Midnight Run in the chat, give it a rate.
I mean, I've got to be honest with you. I'd have to go along with your rating of that. For me, it's a 10.
Yeah, Jim D's given it a 10 out of 10. Vin Weasel, 8 out of 10. Cannoli Sasquatch, it's lovely if you're still hanging in, mate. Thank you very much for being here.
I love that name. I love that.
Great, isn't it?
Fantastic.
Brogu and Keith 8.5, and Keith, one of our most loyal supporters. Thank you, Keith. Yeah, it is. It's a really good movie. I mean, it's one of those films that's aged really well, and the only thing that ages the film itself is the use of the telephones and the payphones.
Yeah.
But it's a film that, I mean, dare I say the name remake. It's a film that wouldn't have worked as well with the modern technology because that's part of the discontinuity of the journey.
Yeah.
And the way that.
But it then, see, I don't like these updates when they do try to update something.
No.
Why do things need to be updated for, this this kind of thing that they like to call a modern audience?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see this film remade. I can tell you that.
I hate it.
I would not want to see. You could do a similar fun film. With a different name and a different script, but a similar premise about a woman bounty hunter, going after whoever, and maybe the guy that she has to take back is twice her size, and that's a Melissa McCarthy movie, but it's not going to be this, and maybe it's a fun film, but don't try and.
But I like the kind of I like the fact that we have the lack of technology or the technology of the day that date stamps it. I like those things that date stamp these movies. Not everything has to be brought up into today. We don't have to contemporize everything.
Yeah.
We don't have to keep contemporizing everything.
So tomorrow is Wednesday. I normally do a weekly roundup. I don't do it every week. I do it like every other week. But I'm not doing it tomorrow. It's kind of my last day off. So there's a couple of things I'd quite like to talk about on the stream now before we wrap up. We'll definitely close on the 2-hour mark, but so we got 20 minutes. I've just seen 2 trailers for 2 movies. At least I think one of them's a movie. It might be a TV show. So I saw the Napoleon trailer yesterday.
Yes.
I did a live reaction to that, which I showed the trailer, but I muted it, which promptly got copyrighted. I got taken down.
No.
So so I had to do a non-live reaction, record it again. And then I also saw the Willy Wonka, or just called Wonka, trailer today, which I was surprisingly pleased at. I was quite surprised. And then I saw the new Ashoka trailer. Jury's out on that one. It could be better than it looks. It could be worse than it looks. It could be another Mando or Boba or whatever. But now let's talk about Napoleon first.
Yes, please.
Napoleon trailer looks amazing. I mean, the scale is huge. The CGI looks. You know when it's there, but it's seamlessly there.
Mm.
And that's how it should be.
Mm.
There's one shot, I think it's with the siege of Toulon, where we're looking over the battlements and you've got the Navy bombarding the battlements and, you know, some ships exploding and stuff. All of the lighting looks completely correct.
Mm.
You know, like the ships are like actually lit by the flames. And of course, the ships are probably, they might be miniatures, I don't know. And the flames might be CGI. It might be a combo of the both. It might all be CGI. But it looks properly lit. And that's the difference between, like, you know, if you get CGI, but it doesn't look like it's been lit in a set. But if you can make your CGI look like it's been lit, now that's the quality we want. And it's the same with the, you know, the mass extras of troops on the battlefield. Now, somebody said to me that the movie ended with the Battle of Austerlitz, but in the trailer there are clearly shots from the Battle of Waterloo. Yeah, so
you would assume that. I mean, you would.
So is
it
the whole story? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, is this? I mean, is this based on the Kubrick script?
No. So the Kubrick script is. There's another Napoleon project. Sorry, there's another Napoleon project. That's a miniseries with Spielberg. I don't know why he's trying to make that, because France did a miniseries that was, I think, was pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt's just told me not to get Oppenheimer tickets. Okay, hang fire on that. We might be able to go. We might be able to go midnight on Thursday though. So we'll check and see. Okay, cool. It'd be good if you could see that while he's here. So yeah, I mean, it looks really good. Joaquin Phoenix looks really good. I like the casting of Wellington. It's Rupert Everett, isn't it?
Rupert Everett, yeah.
Surprising casting, but as soon as I saw him, and I only saw like a few seconds of him, because I've read a lot about Wellington, sort of quite you know, obviously upper class British aristocracy, overly confident, bit of a snob, but very charming. And Rupert Everett can do all of that in spades. So he seems like the perfect. Keith, I'll mention that interview when we're wrapping up at the end. I'll mention that. I've got a couple of interviews I'm going to mention quickly. So that looks really good. I definitely want to do a deep dive discussion review right after it comes out, but it's not out. It's not out until Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I saw the trailer and I was like, oh my God, great. When is like next week, or when is this coming out? And it's like Thanksgiving. I'm like, that seems like a long time away.
Yeah, that's too long to wait. But then we had a similar kind of wait with Oppenheimer as well. I mean, there are only 3 movies that I've really been looking forward to seeing this year, and that's Oppenheimer, Napoleon, and Dune.
The Dune 2 trailer looks fantastic. I don't want to see any more. I don't want to see another trailer.
No.
I didn't really want to watch the second Ahsoka trailer, but I did, and actually I was glad I did, because I got a feel a little bit more for what they were doing with the story. There was a lot of box ticking in there, but there was a lot of good Star Wars in there. So the jury's out.
I think there's this hope that this is going to be the thing that saves Star Wars, the Star Wars thing. You know, I mean,
if anyone can do that, Rosario Dawson can.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this is going to be considerably better than what's been served up so far.
I've had a massive crush on Dawson in forever, and she's also a phenomenal actress. And what a range of stuff she's done. Yeah. And she dated a British film director, so there's hope for me yet, you know.
There you go, mate.
Yeah, he probably was a bit better off than me, but you know. We can see. Melvin Deeply says, if Joaquin Phoenix can pull off playing Napoleon with coming across as a weirdo, I'll be very impressed. I think he probably meant without coming across as a weirdo, Melvin, on that comment. I think he'll be fine. I think I mean, Napoleon was a bit strange.
Yeah, he was a very odd man.
He was, you know, I mean, look at Hitler. You know, all these big leaders, they've all got complex characters and personality.
Yeah, because I mean, I initially, when I first heard about the Napoleon project, the first thing I thought was, are they going to be doing the Kubrick script? Because Kubrick had put an immense, pretty much his whole life into research into Napoleon. I mean, at Kubrick's place, which is not far from me, he had index cards of literally every hour of every day of Napoleon's life that he had researched, that he could have researched from every piece of source material that he could have gathered together. And there are hundreds of thousands of index cards that he had, that he used all in chronological order. And it was meticulously researched. And it was just a shame that we didn't get to see the Kubrick Napoleon.
I mean, so from what I haven't done a lot of research on Ridley's Napoleon. Kind of wanted to keep my distance from it until I knew
same
more.
here.
But Paul Biddis did tell me he was shooting it when we interviewed him.
Yeah,
he was on a break from it. He couldn't talk about it at all because he just said he was on the new Ridley Scott film, and I said, "Is that Napoleon?" And he said, "I can't say, NDA." And and I tried as I could to get something out of him on the stream. I couldn't. He's an ex-soldier, so he wasn't going to crack. But he was responsible for marshalling the masses of extras. But the script was written by David Scarpa, who did the screenplays for The Last Castle. That was okay. The remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still, which never should have been made.
Terrible film,
in my opinion. All the Money in the World, that was not a bad film, and 3 episodes of The Man in the High Castle, and he is also writing Gladiator 2, which is currently filming.
Yeah, have you read the Nick Cave script of Gladiator 2?
No, but I'm assuming that's not the one they're shooting, is it?
No, it absolutely, and thank God. It's actually, I heard a really fantastic radio interview with Nick Cave a few years ago, and he was talking about his script for Gladiator 2, and it's utterly bizarre.
Well, I mean, was he commissioned to do that?
He was commissioned to do it, yeah.
Right, and I'm guessing they just decided not to make it then.
Yeah, and this was quite some time ago as well. I'll actually zip that over to you.
Let me guess. You've got a Gladiator 2 script, the Nick Cave one.
It's it's a weird script.
I've had a lot of scripts sent to me. Well, don't send it to me right now because I haven't got time to read it right now, and it will just end up being on a stack somewhere.
Yeah, it's on one of my external hard drives somewhere. So we'll get that over to you at some point.
I mean, I think Napoleon's going to be a big success. I think it's going to go down a storm with the critics. If that trailer is anything to go by.
Yeah, he does need a hit as well, Ridley Scott. He needs something big. He hasn't had a critical hit for a long time.
So the film features 6 major battle sequences. Of course, because Waterloo, which I guess is the big Napoleon film we all know, only really features Waterloo, although it did originally feature two battles, but the other one was cut.
So Rod Steiger, is it?
Rod Steiger, great film.
Yeah.
The one where they had to break for filming so that they could let the Russian army come through the set to invade Czechoslovakia or something, I think.
Oh, right, yeah.
That happened. Paul Rees is in the trailer, and he's the guy who plays the diplomat of France. It's an interesting choice that they've done with they've kind of done the Star Wars thing of
all the posh
English as the aristocrat. And I kind of, why not? If you're not really going for a mixed cast, or you're not casting a French cast around, Yaquin, he's not going to do a French accent, which I think was a good decision. Then why not? I mean, if it was a kitsch World War II movie about guys going on a mission, I'm all in favour of German generals speaking in English with a German accent, like in Where It Was There and whatnot.
Yeah.
If you're doing an historical epic, you have to make a clear, defined choice from the get-go that the audience will then buy into. And in The Longest Day, everyone spoke their own language, subtitles. All the actors were cast from their own countries, although all of the scenes were refilmed in English, so they could have an all-English version for the American audience, which is very hard to get hold of that now. I think the choice is good. It works in the film, doesn't it? The arrogant sort of posh people. It was an arrogant posh people's war fought by poor people. So
you're right there.
Keith says, I think Napoleon, maybe the first movie I go in the last 10 years and see at the theatre. I hadn't been to the cinema for absolutely ages, and I went to see Indy 5, and I regretted it. So, I wanted to be able to say I'd seen them all at the cinema, which is where
there is that. I mean, it's I think I said it before. To me, it's more of a curiosity than a really desperate, real desperation to go and see it. It is a curiosity.
David is friends with Ian McNeice, so he's definitely getting the DVD. So Ian McNeice was in a BBC drama production about the invasion of the Falkland Islands with Bob Peck called An Ungentlemanly Act.
Oh yeah.
And I've got that on DVD, and Ian McNeice is great in it. I got through to Galtieri only to be told to bloody piss off, basically, is one of his lines. I really rate him, David. So if you ever speak to him on a regular basis, can you tell him that is my favourite performance of his, even though I know he's done massive roles since then.
Yeah.
That
was
it's a good film.
That was really good.
It's not aged well. It's got some I watched it not that long ago, and the battle stuff is all really good, and the tone of the comedy is all really good. But it's got some major pacing issues. There's a lot of waffle in the first half hour that I think could have been trimmed down. But that's of its time. I think slow-paced dramas for TV. It was booked for a TV slot, so it had a particular running time to adhere to, probably. And we've talked about our two films. Just talking about other stuff this week that I've looked at. So Napoleon, yes, 2 thumbs up on the trailer. We'll definitely go and see it at the cinema.
Absolutely.
The trailer for Wonka with the lad from June, who I met when I went to see the June trailer. Bless him, he was ever so lovely. Timothy Chalamet. He had this bright neon pink and white hoodie on in the after party. It was so funny, but very like casual skater hoodie. Looked like he'd owned it for years,
He's a good actor, isn't he?
He's good. He was very humble. I just said to him, mate, that was an amazing performance. Well done. And he said, he puts his hand on my shoulder. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. It was just like really nice guy. And of course, everybody wanted to talk to him, so I didn't try to kind of pin him down for a chat and thrust the script into his hand, But I got to chat with the director for 10 minutes, so that was
Denis Villeneuve.
I did, yeah. We talked about Lynch's Dune and all kinds of things. It was a lot of fun. So have you seen the Wonka trailer?
I've not seen the Wonka trailer.
Hugh Grant is in it as an Oompa Loompa in a jar. It's worth seeing for that alone. I could show a pause of that, but I don't know if we'll get ratio.
Just be careful. Yeah, I would be careful.
Let me not, because then I'll sink our 2-hour stream. But has anyone else in the chat seen the Wonka trailer? What do you think of it? I'm a big fan of the Gene Wilder film. I'm not a big fan of the Tim Burton movie.
No,
it felt just really creepy and weird.
It is creepy. It is.
Yeah.
It just.
He comes across as a paedophile in that film. I just didn't like it at all. I do think there's room for an origin story, which is what this movie is. It's done as a kind of a musical, because there's musical numbers in it. It's basically about Wonka's battle to get started and against the big 3 chocolate companies. And how he's the inventor of great chocolates and he's going up against them. I think that's a great premise. I think that's a great, that's a character that we know, but it's a fresh original story. They're not trying to remake the wheel. They're taking what's there and doing something useful with the origin story. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And Chalamet is perfect in the role as a young Wonka. He is. And he looks like a young Gene Wilder,
Yeah,
a little bit. So
I'm surprised that they haven't considered, using, going back to source material and using the sequel book, The Glass Elevator.
I'm surprised no one's ever done the Glass Elevator movie, actually. I mean, it's not as good as the original book.
No.
It is a bit like we all took some hallucinogenics and what happened, and I've written a book.
Yeah.
It's got a very kind of Yellow Submarine vibe about it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes,
which is a film that has not aged well, as I found out when I watched it recently. And I used to love it when I was a kid. I watched it now and I was like, yeah, some of this is quite embarrassing. But I mean, there's some lovely things in it, but especially Jeremy. But it is, anyway. But anyone in the chat, have you seen the Wonka trailer? If you have, what did you think? Vin Weasel, I assume he's talking about Wonka and not Napoleon. Seen the trailer, didn't engage me. I don't care for either of the other two films. Okay, well, there you are. How can you not like the Gene Wilder one? Tim Burton hasn't made a good film since the 90s. Don't know, what was the last film he made? I can't remember. They could have casted Willy Wonka in the movie The Sound of Freedom. They could have cast Tim Burton's Willy Wonka in The Sound of Freedom. That's true, yes. But not Timothy Chalamet plays it. I like what he's done with it. I think it's definitely going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be crap. Will it be really good? I don't know. I give it a cautious one thumbs up on the trailer. Not the big two confident thumbs up I've given Napoleon, but yeah.
Who actually made this? What is this for? This isn't? Tell me it's not Disney.
I'm not sure if it's TV or a movie. Let's actually know. So I think it's a movie. Here we go. So musical fantasy film directed by Paul King. So Simon Farnby. That's the comedian who's in Ghosts. I love him. He's great.
Oh yeah,
he's not a bad writer. So actually, I think he's a great choice to write the script. He's also in The Detectorists.
Yeah.
I really rate him. I've tried to get him on the channel for an interview. I won't get him now. I shouldn't think anyway. Great supporting cast. Rowan Atkinson, Sally Hawkins, Olivia Colman, Hugh Grant, Jim Carter. Lots of people auditioned for the role, including Ryan Gosling. Okay. Let's just have a quick look. So, it's due to be released on the 15th of December. Wow. I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah, that is a long time. Yeah.
Got the trailer.
Yeah.
It was originally set for March 2023. So I don't know what delayed that.
It isn't Disney, is it?
No, it's Warner Brothers.
Oh, thank Christ.
One of the few studios still standing against the big evil mouse.
God, yeah. That's a relief.
A Jack Warner movie or a Jack Warner mini series, The Life of Jack Warner. That is a show I would love to see.
Yeah.
Like The Offer. I've looked at writing that before. That's something I'd really like to work with it. David Macy has worked with Farnby. I've heard he's very nice, and you're right. He would be a brilliant choice for Doctor Who. He would be a really good Doctor Who.
Yeah, he would. Yeah.
I just think he's a great actor. He's limited in the way that Hugh Grant is great at certain roles. You're not going to cast Farnby as a working class hitman, but he is really good at what he does. He's got really good nuances to his performance. I like him in everything I've seen him in. So produced by David Heyman. Didn't he do the Harry Potters?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Cinematography and it does look good, is Chung Chung-hoon, South Korean cinematographer.
I was just going to say, definitely a South Korean. He
did Last Night in Soho. That looked great. Didn't care for the film.
Yeah.
Zombieland, Double Tap, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, and many other films as well. He did Uncharted. Okay. But I guess there's quite a bit of CG in Wonka, so they probably worked with someone who could work with CG.
Yeah.
But and so much of Wonka in the trailer is shot around Covent Garden.
Oh,
they must have closed down like all the streets, but like they must have done endless night shoots there. Because you can see it. They've got them all covered in snow. There's like extra fountains, and you see it in the trailer. There's stuff all over the place in that trailer.
So this is obviously going to be a very English kind of movie.
It's funny how Hugh Grant only now seems to be cast as a villain. I don't know that an Oompa Loompa's a villain. It's quite a funny line in the trailer where Wonka goes to him, "How short is you?" And he's like, "I'll have you know, for an Oompa Loompa, I'm rather large for my size." Something like that.
Do you know, I do like him. I do.
No,
like
I do.
him.
I think he's.
Yeah,
I think he's a perfectly pleasant guy.
Yeah, and I loved him in the Russell T Davies thing. Very English Scandal.
Yeah.
Yes. Fantastic.
He was really good in that.
Yeah. And,
I mean, Russell Grant has got a narrow range of characters that he can play, but within that narrow range, there are sort of 10 types that he can do really well. You only have to go back to 4 Weddings and a Funeral and watch that scene where him and I think the other Charlie, and his character's called Charlie. I forget the name of the other character. Fancy a walk, Charlie, and they go for a walk by the river after the funeral.
Yeah,
and he's talking about trying to find the right girl, and there's a really beautiful scene between him and his best mate, who's played by James Fleet, and he says, "Well, it worked for my mum and dad, apart from the divorce and all that."
Yeah.
And he says, "Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe this one true love stuff gets you nowhere." And he kind of looks off. You can really see he can act in that.
Yeah,
he can act in that. He plays, he plays the fluffy light man in the rest of the film, but in that one scene, you can really see he can act. So I always thought he was. People labelled him as a one note too quickly, and I thought, no, he's got the balls to do really good stuff with the right script. And
I mean, because he was part of if memory serves me correctly, wasn't he part of Kenneth Branagh's Renaissance
pictures?
Yeah.
I don't know if he was one of the company of that, because he would have appeared in one of the Shakespeare films, and I don't remember him being in any of Branagh's Shakespeare's. And that would be a good episode to do, because I got to wander around the set of Hamlet when it was filming in Shepperton. I even got I popped a letter under Branagh's door when I was there. Never heard from him.
Yeah, he's a nice man. He's a nice man. I do like him. Yeah.
I'm sure he runs a lovely set, and I'm sure everybody's after a piece of what he can give them for their career, and I dare say he has to juckle those balls.
I do love watching him. I love watching him.
Well, I was on the set of Henry V.
Henry V, yeah, that's right.
In the battle scene. That was the first time I'd ever been on a movie set that was shooting.
And what a movie set to be on.
Yeah, somebody was working for Stunts Incorporated, who also was connected to, I think, a medieval reenactment group that were playing a lot of the guys in the background.
Yeah.
And either the guy from, I can't remember if it was the guy from the Stunts Incorporated or the guy from the background, went to the War Games Club or a War Games Club or Games Club or something. Anyway, somehow I found out that they were shooting this scene and they needed some extra people, and I kind of blagged my way on for a day, and it was a really long day, and it was wet. And they had fire engines to like make all the mud even more muddy than it was everywhere, so that they could do those
things shot up by the reservoir, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. You can see the wall of the reservoir in the background. It was like off the sort of back part of the back lot, as it were.
Yeah.
And I was there when they did that really long take when he's carrying Christian Bale's. That's the day I was there.
Yeah.
And I vaguely recall that was the last shot of the day, and you can see in the shot that the guy who's dead, who's hanging in the tree, his eye moves like it's like that, and it's because of flies like buzzing around his eye. You can see it. And they didn't have enough money to do that shot again. I think they only did 2 takes of that, and everybody was ill. The guy who played the narrator, the chorus in the film, Derek Jacobi, he was really sick.
Was he?
Yeah, when that was shooting, he sounded terrible. But as soon as he did his takes, he was there.
Yeah.
He's
a lovely actor.
So, okay, we better wrap it up. We're at the 2-hour mark. So,
okay, mate.
Our next stream is next official stream is next Tuesday, where we're doing Rocketeer, Phantom.
Oh, I can't wait.
And this means I've got to watch the Phantom again, man.
Oh no, that's the only downer.
Can I bring myself to do that? Or I might just have to take someone else's word for it.
Yeah.
I haven't. I only saw that movie once. I saw it at the cinema.
Yeah.
And I never saw it again. I've only seen The Shadow once, and I saw that, I think, at the cinema. That's the one with Samuel L. Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Rocketeer, I saw at the cinema. Got a big box VHS. Got
the vinyl soundtrack.
I don't have the vinyl. I funnily enough, I love the soundtrack to the Rocketeer, but I don't have it. I don't have it, and I'm not sure why I didn't get that one. I think it was because of where I was living, and I'd sort of started to stop buying CDs because I was moving. And the Phantom, I met Billy Crystal and got to have a long chat with him at a film festival in a green room, and it was literally just me, him, and a few other people in the room, and we were there for about
Billy Zane.
Billy Zane. Sorry, not Billy Crystal. Billy Zane. Thank you. And we did briefly talk about the Phantom, but we mainly spoke about Dead Calm.
Oh, what a movie!
I know, great. We've got to do a stream on that.
Yeah,
we need to do a stream on 2 movies where people are like trapped on boats.
Yeah.
So you could do Dead Calm and
Jaws.
Not Jaws. No, not a creature feature. Just where the water and the boat is what creates.
Right.
And there's loads of movies like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be Titanic, couldn't it? Titanic.
It could well be.
Not particularly similar films, but we might have to go for a different one. Listen, guys, there's 11 people that have been in this all the way through. We know a lot of the regulars are here. All. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Jim, Melvin, Vin Weasel, of course. We know that's the real Vin. So you're obviously in your Winnebago. Long break for you. Good. You better get back on set, sir. Grogu asked this question the other night, and I didn't answer it. Have you seen Slow Horses starring Gary Oldman? And if you have, what are your thoughts on it? I saw the pilot. I liked it, but I got distracted by too many things. I was in pre-production for a film that didn't happen and whatnot. There's a guy I know really well called Stephen Walters who's in it, who was also in Band of Brothers, who played McGrath, because he stayed at my house when he was filming that. So I probably do need to watch it at some point. So Inside Man, I've got my in and out mixed up. I'm not sure quite what he means by that. David, thank you very much. It's been awesome. It's been another fantastic one. Love doing these. Absolutely love doing these.
Yeah, it's been great. And thanks to everybody that stuck with us. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.
Can I also say before we go that not only have we reached 2,000 subs now, we're over 2,000 subs. I think it was 2002 when I looked last. But I also want to say thank you to all our new subscribers. It's you guys that are keeping me going. The channel is really close to becoming monetized. It's about the watch hours at the moment. So if you can go back and watch the other industry interviews that we have, there's also my 2-hour feature film, The Journey, was shot for a very low budget. It's a certain type of movie.
That really is well worth watching.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be for everyone. If you're into your action films, The Journey probably isn't for you. Although you will see me shoot a machine gun in it because I have a small cameo in it. But that's a 2-hour movie to watch. So put it on in the background, mute it if you're not going to watch it, but it will count towards our watch hours. All of these things will be really helpful. Thanks so much, guys. So back on Tuesday, we also have 2 interviews coming up. I've confirmed them both now. One with Debbie Evans, stunt woman extraordinaire, 400 credits. Wow. 400 credits on IMDb. It's going to be amazing. We think that's going to be the last week of July or the first week of August. On the 26th of July, which is a Wednesday, I have film biographer. Let me just make sure. I don't want to say his name incorrectly. It's John. just double check my email. John Walsh coming on. Now, John Walsh wrote several making of books, which you can get on Amazon. And these include one of which is on its way to my house as I speak. The making of the Doctor Who and the Dalek movies. And of course, there's a connection with those and the Outcasts, because our favorite Outcast, Jason Flemyng, his father directed both of those films. So the book that's been written about these, which has extensive on-set photos, interviews, all kinds of stuff. The guy who wrote that, he is going to be on the channel on the 26th of July, John Walsh. John also wrote the making of The Wicker Man. These are all available.
Oh my God.
Conan the Barbarian. He's done a special book on Ray Harryhausen. So this guy's going to be right up your street. And he's done a making of Flash Gordon and a making of Escape from New York. So this guy is without a doubt as big a film nerd as us.
See, these are the kind of people that are extremely important. These film historians.
Yeah.
I think film historians are incredibly important people, and fair play to him for doing this.
This is Jason will pop on that to say hello, David. It is possible. Yeah, he may do. He may pop on for a little bit. Yeah. Sorry, Inside Man.
To gather all of this information that wasn't previously available, the kind of research that goes into this sort of thing, it's amazing. But for him to put this information together, to preserve all of this information, for not just us now, this is for 10, 20, 30, 50 years time. This information is still going to be out there, and these will be the definitive stories of these making of these movies.
Yeah, because part of the reason that I'm trying to interview people in the industry who've got very established careers, and by the way, we don't just want to talk to them, we want to speak to people who are just starting out as well, because the different perspectives have their own unique qualities of interest for viewers.
Yeah.
But the reason that I want to speak to people like Debbie Evans is she's got, 5 decades of experience of how the industry has changed.
Yeah.
But as you say, all these incredible stories from sets of days gone by, and once those stories have gone, they've gone forever. And I have actually talked to her about getting her to write a biography, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility that I might be doing that with her. So,
wow. Yeah, that would be amazing.
But this is a lovely project to do for somebody. I'd love to.
But this is also the beauty of this channel, though, Lance. This is what you do. You draw these stories out of people. You help preserve these stories as well. So these things are going to be around. Everyone can learn from all of these stories that you're drawing out of all of these different guests that you're having on this. So therefore they're all preserved. You're part of the preservation of movie history. So
that's very kind. That's a very big accolade to have. David, also you mentioned that you'd written a script earlier. I'm actually going to do a script special show. I'm not quite sure of the angle yet, but it's going to be about I'm going to definitely do one episode about how I write scripts, and how I break them down and all that kind of thing, like a bit of a sort of tutorial, because I do one-to-one script writing, coaching, breaking down people's scripts, analogy, all script reports. I do all of that stuff. So if anybody ever wants that, contact me, care of the Outcasts Creative Facebook page. My fees are pretty reasonable. I don't do it for free. I do have to charge, but yes, we will definitely do with Nail and I at one point. I might just do a retro review of that, but it's there's so much I could say about that film, but that's for another time. So we've got Debbie Evans and we've got John Walsh coming on, and I've got more guests lined up behind them. I'm going to try and do at least 2 industry interviews a month if I can, but we will see how we go. But hopefully also, Inside Man, you can speak to some people in crew positions and have words. I'll tell you one person that I want to interview that will be difficult to pin down. I want to interview a catering company.
Oh, right. Okay.
So if you could put the word out and put some feelers out, because they are the most important people on a set.
Absolutely, yeah.
As I keep telling, that's a trick question. When you get asked who's the most important person on the film set, the correct answer is the caterer. If the catering's shit, no one's going to work that day. Trust me on that.
Yeah.
So, and then it's the director probably, but the caterer is definitely first. The cast will tell you the catering is the most important thing on the set. Everybody always looks forward to lunch, you know. So,
and of course, we all need a honey wagon from time to time as well.
Well, indeed, and especially if the catering is bad. So, on that note, just reminds me
on that bum note,
on that bombshell. Just want to say thanks to my co-host Inside Man. Thanks to
you're
Matthew
welcome.
Holmes
Thank
you. Popping in on his way to the airport. Thanks to everybody for tuning in and watching the stream. We're back again next Tuesday around the same time with Matthew in the studio as well. He'll be here with me. And then there might be a couple of spontaneous streams. We might be doing a Mission Impossible stream when we've seen the film. We're going to be a bit late on the party on that one, but I wanted to see it with Matt at the same time. So we'll see you all again real soon.
Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, we are off air.